Good day, YouTubers, what's going on? This is AK of Extreme Measure Productions, and today I'm bringing you yet another X-Talk video presentation. And this one is very interesting because I'm going to be discussing what is apparently going to be a very big occurrence in the video game industry very soon. EA and Nintendo are coming back together. Well, according to this rumor anyway. So a rumor just came out yesterday, February 22nd, 2016, which indicates that the two companies will be meeting in a couple of weeks to discuss support for Nintendo's upcoming system, the NX. Now, if you've been following Nintendo news for the past couple of years, you would know about the fallout that the two had. If you don't know, well, basically, EA had promised an unprecedented partnership with Nintendo. They announced that when Nintendo unveiled the Wii U back at E3 2011, saying how the Wii U was the perfect place to play all of EA's latest titles. What ended up happening was EA basically dropped support for the system in just a matter of months after it was released, and the rest was history. They basically went on a tangent afterwards, insulting Nintendo, insulting the Wii U. Well, I shouldn't say they, I mean they as in a few of their employees just was making a mockery of the system and its company. And for quite a while, this happened between 2013 and 2014. Finally, they stopped in the first half of 2014. But the point was, EA just, it was totally a mess. And EA, of course, was already nobody's best friend at that time, but they really pissed off a lot of Nintendo fans. And both companies just did not interact with each other anymore. Now, it looks like they're getting ready to tear down the wall, build a bridge, come back together again. And if this happens, this is going to be, like I said, a very monumental occurrence. Now, here is the rumor, well, the short version anyway. Apparently, EA was one of the very first developers to receive dev kits for the NX. Very interesting. This is due to Nintendo seeing EA as a core component for achieving success with their new system. The apparent meetings that are set to take place next month will involve both companies talking things over, ultimately deciding how much support EA gives the NX. In order for the support to happen, EA wants Nintendo to start appealing more to the sports crowd. This involves allocating funds to market on popular networks during peak seasons. EA also wants Nintendo to bundle their sports-themed titles like Madden and FIFA with the NX. Apparently, seeing that both Microsoft and Sony are already heavily involved with all of this, EA wants Nintendo to follow their lead. Now, that is the short version. You can go ahead and read all the details down in Nintendo Life's post, which I will put a link down to in the description. But as far as this goes, this is pretty interesting. Now, this rumor comes from one of Nintendo Life's informants, who has apparently talked to several EA staff members, which goes to indicate that it may be true. Of course, it's still a rumor, so of course take it with a grain of salt. But anyway, if this does happen to be true, like I said, this will be monumental in the fact that EA, whether you like them or whether you hate them, they are the biggest publisher in the industry. They own the most amount of IPs, they own the most amount of studios, they're massive. They're basically the Disney of the video game industry in terms of size. They're massive, they're at the top. So for Nintendo to go ahead and approach them to support the NX just makes sense from a business perspective, because if Nintendo can get EA support back for the NX, that will be big. That means the NX will be drowning in games from the very beginning, which is definitely good. Of course, it's a video game console. A console needs software to sell hardware. If the software is there, people will go ahead and buy it. And when you combine Nintendo's titles with great third-party support, magical things will happen. But I'll get into that a little bit later. Now, I find it interesting that EA basically has a clause with all of this, like, okay, you want us to help you? Well, you're going to have to help us first. We want you to build a reputation with the sports crowd. If you can do that, we'll go ahead and give you support. Now, I find that very interesting. It may seem a bit arrogant on their part, but it does make sense. Like I just said, they're top dog in the industry. They're the biggest. So for them to make a request like that, it makes sense. They are looking for money, and their sports games are some of their biggest money makers. So for them to be able to build a reputation on Nintendo's platform, that will definitely work out for both Nintendo and EA. Now, I find this interesting primarily because Microsoft and Sony have a very big dominance in that category already, appealing to the sports crowd. A lot of people buy Xboxes and PlayStations just to play the new FIFA, new Madden, so forth and so on. So for Nintendo to kind of whittle their way into the middle of that, I'm not sure how that's going to work out, especially since Microsoft already has a deal with EA. You know, the whole EA Access thing, where Xbox owners get early access to a lot of EA's titles and stuff like that. And PlayStation has a lot of bundles with EA, you know, their Madden, FIFA games, like as this rumor suggests. That's what EA wants Nintendo to start doing. Now, even though it is possible, I'm wondering how this is all going to work out with Nintendo's titles. Okay, you can build a reputation with the sports crowd, but Nintendo's fans primarily care about Nintendo's titles, as you would expect them to. So how are you going to build that reputation when you already have PlayStation and Xbox who have already secured that market? What's going to be so special that it ends up being completely different? And see, that's the thing. Even if Nintendo is able to appeal to EA's better side and get the support, there has to be something special about the NX version of an EA game or Ubisoft or Activision or whatever. If third-party support is going to be a part of the NX, there has to be something that will coax people into buying that. Because a lot of Nintendo fans end up buying other systems just to play third-party games because third parties release the complete versions of their games on those systems. When it comes down to supporting Nintendo consoles, if they do that, it's usually a much lesser version. We've seen a lot of that these past 2 generations. So there has to be a big change. There has to be real support, not flim-flammy support. There has to be real support. So EA, you know, is a very big company and they can do whatever they want. But if Nintendo is serious about this, then hopefully things will work out for the better. Now, the main thing about all this, and this is probably something I'm going to make a separate video to talk about more in full, is that Nintendo's IPs are huge. Biggest in the industry from a first-party standpoint. So how are they going to mesh together is what I wonder, because when it comes down to PlayStation and Xbox, they tend to position their own releases away from any major third-party games. If you look at the way they handle stuff like Uncharted and Halo and Killzone and Forza, they're usually out of the way of other big franchises like Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Need for Speed, and stuff like that. So for Nintendo, they're going to have to position their own games, because if they release their game in May, the best time for any third party to release their game wouldn't be until maybe about July or August, because that's when sales are going to slowly start to drop down to where it wouldn't be that much of a competition. But they cannot release them within the same week. That definitely cannot happen, because they would release, say, Zelda and Assassin's Creed in the same week. I would love to see how that would turn out. Not good, basically. So that's the main thing. So even if Nintendo does get their support, it's probably going to have to be where Nintendo has to agree not to interfere with their major releases. That's the big thing there. So it's going to be interesting to see how Nintendo handles the whole third-party situation with the NX. I'm not surprised that this is happening. Like, if this rumor is to be believed, I'm not surprised that this is happening, primarily because this is Kimishima's Nintendo now. This is no longer Nintendo that was ran by Iwata. Iwata thought like a game developer. He thought creatively and imaginatively. He wanted to make gaming accessible to as much people as possible, so he made the systems affordable. He made their games open to players. With Kimishima, he isn't a game developer, he's a businessman. He understands the way that the market works, he understands the trends, and so he wants to push Nintendo back into that core crowd. At least that's how it seems. And in order for them to do that, they're going to have to go ahead and just deal with third-party companies, because Nintendo hasn't really dealt with third-party companies on a serious nature for a long time now. So they're going to have to go ahead and actually start appealing to third-party companies, appealing to their demands, and they can start that by appealing to EA's demand of making sure that the NX has a dedicated sports crowd. So it should be interesting to see what other third parties will require for Nintendo to get their support on the NX. And I'm excited to see exactly how this all goes. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the NX for a while, but this is too big not to talk about because it's so interesting. And if it ends up going great, then Sony and Microsoft better watch out, because the NX will definitely be a force to reckon with if it has that core third-party support. And how this all plays out, it's going to be very interesting to see. There are so many variables, so many different ways that this can go. We can only wait and see exactly how this whole situation will turn out. And as we get closer to E3, of course, more and more rumors will continue to come out. There are already a lot that are already out that do seem to have some truth to them. We'll just see how this goes. Anyway, guys, I'm going to end this video here. If you liked what you saw, please go ahead and click that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And make sure to leave your comment down below and share your thoughts. Would you like to see Nintendo getting back into the black with third-party companies? Do you want to see them cooperating on a serious level again? Leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think. Until the next video, hope you have a great day, great night, great evening, whatever time of day it is. Have a good one, and I will catch you in the next one. This is AKF Extreme Productions, signing off.